let's jump into our module of the week. And to do that, we're going to turn it over to Martin Anderson Klutz, a senior solutions engineer at Acquia and a maintainer of a number of Drupal modules of his own. Martin, what do you have for us this week?
Thanks, John. Have you ever wanted to manage and display the hours of operation for a business on your Drupal website? There's a module for that. It's called Office Hours, and it was originally created in January of 2008 by Ozus, though recent releases are by John Vasquilin of the Netherlands. It has 7.x-1.11 and 8.x-1.17 versions available, and it is actively maintained. In fact, its latest release was just 3 weeks ago. It does also have security coverage and test coverage. And as far as documentation, there is no user guide, but it does have a pretty extensive README file. It does have 15 open issues, only one of which is a bug against the current branch, though it's postponed for more info, which is quite impressive considering the module is in use by almost 20,000 sites. Now, longtime listeners may recognize Office Hours as having been previously covered as Module of the Week way back in episode 113, more than 8 years ago in the Drupal 6 End of Life episode. The module provides a specialized widget to set the hours for each weekday with the option to have more than one time slot per day. You can define exceptions, for example, on stat holidays, and you can also define seasons with a start and end date during which the hours are different. The module also offers a variety of options for formatting the output. So you can show days as ranges, for example, Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., use 12-hour or 24-hour clocks, and so on. Obviously, we'll also show any exceptions or upcoming seasonal hours, and it can also show an open now or close now indicator. It can also create schema.org compliant markup for opening hours and has integration with the schema.org meta tag module for that. Office Hours does all this with a new field type, so you could add it to stores in a Drupal commerce site, a locations content type in a site for a bricks and mortar chain, or if you just need a single set of hours for the site, you should be able to use it with something like the config pages module. The README file also includes some suggestions on how to use Office Hours with views, which can give you a lot of flexibility on where and how to show the information. So let's talk about Office Hours.
Yeah, this is a bit of a blast from the past. I'm trying to remember. I used this in a project. I'm probably the one that suggested it way back when in episode 113.
Well,
Because I used it on a project. I need to listen to that and remember
maybe it
which
was
one.
you, but it also could have been me because I think I used this back in Drupal 7
That's
for
possible.
something and was like, oh, this feels like, or maybe I heard about it on the show and then I used it. But anyway, it's a very I don't know. It's a very niche filling module that does a very specific thing
Yeah,
and does it pretty well.
yeah.
Um, it's interesting because Martin, in your brief history, you said John Volkswagen of the Netherlands, and I'm wondering if he's the only one. Like,
I
I'm wondering if there's only one, one person with that name in the Netherlands.
I mean, I didn't say the John Voskelin, but
Oh, all right,
he could
There
be. He
there
could be. I don't know.
there
all
is
right.
only one Netherlands.
That's true.
Well, I mean, that's true, but I don't know. I just felt like it was like kind of like by John Picozzi of Rhode Island, of the Rhode Island. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. I digress. Yeah, this is super interesting. The module also, at least the last time I used it, I'm sure they've probably made great advances since Drupal 7, but the last time I used it, it was really good at just handling those time slots, noting when a place a place wasn't open and stuff like that
Yeah.
was really useful. So if I remember correctly, I was using it for a hospital group, and they were basically using it for office hours for their locations. So it allowed for exceptions for like holidays and all sorts of stuff that you might have exceptions for. So pretty useful module.
I, it's one of those modules that, if you're just doing this for one single site, for one single location, you're probably just going to type it up in HTML, right? But the second you need to allow end users to edit the hours, and they have multiple locations, and you need to enforce rules like holidays and things like that, and you don't want to, risk missing something like that. You just want to set up the rules once. I mean, this module is, indispensable for that type of situation. And it's one of those things where it'd be really annoying to write it yourself. So it's wonderful that it's, maintain and contrib, and that you can
That's
just
what we did for some of our clients too. Like we just created a block with fields, and like you type your hours in here and you can update as needed. But I would be curious to see if that works well with like scheduler or something like that, so that you could potentially schedule publishing. Also, it does recognize the calendar time, so maybe you don't need it, which is great, because the biggest problem was like an editor has to go like midnight and update some, like, closed or something like that. But if you could pre-schedule some of those, would be fantastic. But it seems like the module is doing something like that with exceptions out of the box, so maybe you don't even need it, which is great. Like I didn't know they existed until I heard today from Martin. So that would be a big improvement for all the future projects that need something like that.
Yeah, it's super helpful.
Yeah, definitely a great module for making things consistent and making things a little bit easier for yourself. As always, Martin, thanks for bringing us another wonderfully enlightening module of the week. If folks wanted to connect with you or suggest a module of the week, how could they go about doing that?
We're always happy to get nominations for Module of the Week in the Talking Drupal channel of Drupal Slack, but folks can also reach out to me directly as ManClue on all the Drupal and social platforms.